The business environment. It's an opportunity to be successful. Sometimes, literally, can be fabulously successful. One of the few things that I really do appreciate about Jeff Bezos, one comment that he made several years ago, he sat there and he says, some people compare business to the world of baseball, where the bases are loaded and you get up to bat, and with one swing of the bat, you can sit down, knock all the bases in, and score yourself and get 4 runs with one swing of the bat. He says that's actually wrong. Sometimes when you sit down and you go to home plate with your bat, you can actually score 1,000 run if you hit it just right. Well, the same thing happens to all of us. We have an opportunity when we go into the world of business. 70% of all millionaires actually are not entrepreneurs. They're actually employees that have actually leveraged their position into making large amounts of money. A lot of entrepreneurs. Some of you drive past people on a regular basis and you have no idea as to who they are, because most of your successful people in the aspect of financial revenue from the world of business, they seldom drive the Rolls Royces or Bentley. Most of them are driving a typical Mercedes or whatever, maybe going down the street. This opportunity to succeed or stumble really is what the world of business really is all about. So let's take a look at a couple things. The framework, you have 5 different things you need to look at. You need to look at the economic and legal environment. They blend a great deal because of the fact that the aspect of the United States, if you look at a large part of our economy, one of them is based upon the fact that we have enforceable legal contracts. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Some countries you don't. You have a corrupt organization that you have to pay bribes for to get anything done in the process. Sometimes you have contracts that the government will not be involved in the business or not allow you to open the business. It's a big deal. Technology is enormous, and you better pay close attention to that. We'll talk more about that in just a little bit. The competitive environment. In our country, we have a right to sit down. If somebody has a shop that sits down there and is a hair salon, you have a legal right to put your shop right next door to them and compete nose to nose with them. That's not always true. Social environment, how everything is arranged around you in the aspect of where things belong and what you see as to what is the social environment and where are you. Is California the same as Kansas? Is it the same as Georgia? We have a totally different culture, and even though we may have the commonality of being Americans, then even the language and a lot of our customs are the same. Totally different in the aspect of the social environment. Global business environment, when you pay somebody here in the United States $275,000 to be a plant manager operating 75 to 175 workers, and you have somebody opening a business in India with exactly the same number of people, exactly the same responsibility, often they're paid a third or less of what they pay in America just because of the environment is a little bit different in that part of the world versus this part of the world. Pay attention to what's out there. Look into different aspects of it. Here, I have a little chart here on the left. The technological environment, I'm going to talk about that a big deal because it's going to impact all of us. The social environment, the aspect of the diversity, the demographic changes, the family, the competitive environment. Really, this chart summarizes quite a bit. You look at the economic and legal environment. We have a lot of great things happening in this country called the United States, far better than most of the rest of the world. Yes, we have problems, but our problems really diminish in scope and actually the aspect of impact on us in a daily life. We have a great nation, and our job is to sit down and make it great in the aspect of us being involved in the world of business in a way that brings profit, benefit to us, our family, and our community just as well. Let's look first of all at the economic and legal environment. What can the government do to promote entrepreneurship? They can protect private ownership. Just so you know, it's not like that in other countries, but here, let private ownership of business ensures entrepreneurs you get to keep the rewards of your efforts and investments. But later on, we'll talk about the aspect of what the tax rate in the current setup we have right now. Corporate tax rate is 21%, but here in California, you got to tack on another 9%. And by the way, if you issue out dividends, then the people that receive them, they have to pay 28 to 33% on that. So literally, sometimes you're paying almost 50% of all your corporate profits on a C corporation for the profitability in your organization. Pay attention to that. Do your best to make sure that you maximize that. It's a big deal. Minimize interference. You want to reduce the administrative state, which I'm talking about in another class called employment law, the actual interference of the government in actually having business out there. It should try to step back unless there's a reason for it to have regulations in the process. We get to enforce contracts. Listen, we have a couple of countries that are our next door neighbors, and one of the biggest problems they have is the fact that you cannot enforce the contract because of this or because of this or because of this. Here, I'll be happy to make fun of attorneys until the day that I die, except for the fact we have the ability to go into court to enforce a contract is gargantuously beneficial, and that is part of the backbone of our society. Please don't tell any lawyers I praise them for just a moment. I must have lost my mind just there. Establishing stable currency. The US $100 bill is by far the single most popular piece of paper printed on planet Earth. Just so you know, if you want anything to be done, you whip out your $100 bill. Always have one stashed away sometime in the bottom of your shoe if you have to, but make sure you always have that because the US dollar is the most stable currency on planet Earth. And it's a big thing, and it's a big thing for business to be successful. Minimize corruption. One time I was part of an organization and we were sending stuff down to the state of Oaxaca, Mexico. And we sent a bunch of different supplies for a mountain village school, and my wife was really leading the charge, and so she was sending it for children of Oaxaca. And we actually got everything tied up in Mexico because of the fact that they were looking for a bribe for the pencils and the paper and the books we were sending to this poor mountain village. We actually got the president of the country involved to sit down there and tell them to knock it off and let her stuff go because we had a connection there with Vincente. So you have a lot of different aspects of minimizing corruption. We simply don't know how good we have it, and whenever we see a crisis here, it's only marginal compared to sometimes what you see in other countries. The economic and legal environment are a huge thing, and we need to protect that here, but also if another country has an opportunity, it is wonderful to help them succeed as well. Technology. There's a thing called AGI. AGI is when we have artificial intelligence, we'll have near human intelligence. And they're predicting by 2030 we'll have that. I believe it'll be about 2028. But I don't know about you. Artificial intelligence now is part of everyday work life. I just recently revised my curriculum. Every class I'm teaching now, I have an element of artificial intelligence because I think you need it to be successful on your job. Right now, at the time of this recording, there are jobs out there that will pay up to 57% higher than they would everybody else if you have artificial intelligence usage, not programming, usage experience. It's a big deal. Technology, we're looking at how AI can actually benefit productivity. You will eventually be able to do the work of multiple people with artificial intelligence. And also, we're going to go into a world that we don't even know about. Robotics is going to be huge. We have Elon Musk out there talking about Optimus's robot, and that every home in America will eventually have one. And I believe it's probably true. And he's trying to bring the price down, and everybody else is. We're going to have robot wars, not with them beating each other up that we have now and the cute little toys we have, except for the fact we're going to have them probably reducing the price on a regular basis. So you too will have your own personal robot server at home, and they could be your personal cook as well. Like, oh my gosh, the technology is going to be wonderful. And I want to make certain you pay attention because part of this class, I have a project called the Futurist Project. It's about you projecting 30 years in the future, and we need to always look at that because technology on a daily basis becomes a much stronger aspect. So we have the legal, economic environment, the technical environment, and sometimes we have the circular economy where we have a value circle where we continue to reuse things and recycling. We're going to see more of this in the days to come. Yes, the green energy field is out there, but the reality of us paying more attention to food we eat is a big deal. What you see here on the right-hand side of the slide, those are plants that are not growing in dirt. They're hydroponic plants, and they're actually inside of a shipping container. The equivalent of that. So they take shipping containers, and you can outfit one for about $25,000 to $32,000. You put grow lights in there, you put put specific water that you treat in the process and fertilizer in, and you grow plants there, and literally you park it behind a building. You can actually sit down there and have a small farm in the middle of an urban environment and transport stuff with almost no transportation costs. The e-commerce, almost every single business, you have e-commerce in some form. Business to consumer, we call B2C. Then you also have B2B, which is called business to business. Two totally different markets. We'll talk about that later, but almost every single business on planet Earth has to have some type of e-commerce because of the fact that is how now we talk about different things. In 2019, we had a transformation. It was the first year that digital advertising surpassed all print advertising. Now, by the way, there's a need for both, but we're looking now at the growth of e-commerce. You also have the aspect of the social environment. We talk about demographic shifts. By demography, we're talking about how we define the population. You can go out and see what you have over here. I'm talking to you from Orange County, California. We actually have an extraordinarily wealthy county, and so you have a citizenry that has a high level of education, but we also have a lot of money here in the aspect of people able to buy upscale items. That is different, and literally the neighbor next door to us is Riverside County. They actually have two different demographic populations, and you have to pay attention to what you have going on there. And if you go in the middle of Kansas, where the entire world is flat, like flat. Okay, it's a different aspect of it. You have a different population, and they'll actually act and behave differently because of the demography they have. Look at the aspect too of how we use technology for customer responsiveness in the aspect. And you have this, even Disney, they have the My Magic Plus innovation, but you're going to see a lot more of this on a regular basis. You also have a competitive environment. What is out there? Let me use the example of really buying high-end onesies for babies. You normally think of the aspect of a onesie being purchased by a group out there in the 20s to 30s in that bracket, but you have a lot of senior citizens out there, grandparents that have lots of money are happy to be out there. So what are you if you're going to compete? Who are you competing against knows the most? Are you going to sit down and compete against the 20 to 30 demographic for the sales aspect of it, or the senior citizens? You have a competitive environment. So whatever market you choose by your demography, you must examine the competitors and see what they're doing. Look also in the demography of the social environment. Where are you? Who is going to be your customer? By the way, when you look at some of the demography, as we will in just a minute, you'll see changes that are coming. So pay attention to the aspect of knowing what your demography is, who the population is selling to, and are there areas that you have missed just because of some type of a cultural issue, language issue, or color, whatever that may be. Pay attention to what's out there. In Orange County, we have at least multiple different nationalities here in our county, lots of areas to grab onto something else in the social environment to add to your overall aspect of what you're selling and how you're selling it. Gen Z, really, if they're born after the mid-1990s, Gen Z officially begins about 1995 and goes through 2010. Then we have Gen Alpha coming up. But the Gen Z, if you look at that, it's the largest group of consumers in the world, and they're fabulous on using it on their cell phones and everything else, far better than any other generation on the history of planet Earth. They're going to have a digital natives, we call them. They're going to be values driven, and they're looking for authenticity probably more than any generation in the last 30 years. I'm interested to see what's going to happen. I think there's going to be fabulous different aspects of things to come. We're looking at the war terrorism impact. We have that. It's drained trillions of dollars. We may well have an avenue where we can actually start moving towards real world peace, but we'll see. And globalization really is becoming a huge thing. When you have an opportunity, because some of you will, about global changes, how they're going to affect you, pay attention to what you're doing. Always learn, learn, learn. You don't have to go to college to learn, but you should have a plan to make certain you're on top of what you're doing and make sure your career really is adaptable. Learn the 5 things because they're going to sit down and make you succeed or stumble. The competitive environment, the technical environment, the global environment, the social cultural environment, the legal economic environment. All 5 are part of your matrix you need to pay attention to if you're going to be successful in the world of business. There's opportunities there. So pay attention, put this in your back pocket in the aspect of, gee, I'm going to go back and refer back to this as to how I can sit down there and succeed in the world of marketing, the world of entrepreneurship, and the overall world in business, because this is how you're going to succeed or stumble. Take care.